good amount of us here. I'll just note real quick, we're in a small, tight gallery space, so be mindful of your backs as you may find yourself inadvertently walking into an artwork. Hi, and welcome to the National Museum of Wildlife Art. My name is Kelly Skeen-Fried, and I'm the Sugden Chief Curator of Education here. We are so excited to welcome you to our latest exhibit, From Sea to Shining Sea, Wildlife Above and Below the Waves. You're here today for our Sneak Peek program. Sneak Peek offers special insights the day before we open from our experts here at the museum. The exhibit officially opens tomorrow morning to the public and will be open through August 23rd, so plenty of time to come back and visit, share all the insights you gained today with your friends and family. I'm delighted to be joined today by Kenneth Forte, Curator of Art here at the museum. Kenneth curated this exhibit, From Sea to Shining Sea, among others, including Bicentennial, which is our next latest exhibit that opened last week. Kenneth has been at the museum for about 3.5 years and has presented many exhibits and installations in her time with us. I hope that you'll join me in acknowledging that the museum is on the ancestral lands of the Shoshone-Bannock and Eastern Shoshone peoples, with many others having historic ties to the region. Please join me in acknowledging these Indigenous communities, their elders, both past and present, as well as future generations. The museum is committed to amplifying Native voices and increasing representation in our permanent collection. And with that, I will hand it over to Kenneth, who will give us our sneak peek.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome, thanks for coming. We're excited to share this new exhibit with you here. This exhibit sort of got its start from a conversation some of the staff were having last year at a museum event. And we were in the members gallery, which I'll point to at the end of our visit here, and looking at some of the sculptures there, and we noticed this little fish behind Kelly there, a sculpin. And we thought, that is just the cutest little sculpture. It never gets out, and wouldn't it be fun to find a way to bring this out on display and feature it with some similar works. And what we came up with was this exhibit, From Sea to Shining Sea. It focuses on some of the water-dwelling and water-loving animals in our collection. We have a collection of about 5,000 artworks in total, and there are 42 in this exhibit. Apart from two, all the artworks in this exhibit are part of our permanent collection. We also have 2 long-term loans here. One of them is this painting of panfish. This is a really important painting for our collection because it is the first work that our founders, Bill and Jaffa Kerr, collected. And it was a gift from Jaffa to Bill when he graduated from law school. And that was what sparked their interest in art and their desire to build a collection. And eventually that collection, with a number of other founders and friends, was the foundation of our museum. And so we're so grateful to have this piece on loan from the Kerr family and be able to share it as part of this exhibit. There are 9 artworks in this exhibition that have never been displayed before at the museum. So I'll try to remember to point them all out to you, but if I don't get to 9, please somebody nudge me at the end and I'll make sure to point all of those out. They vary from things that were donated in the very recent past to things that have been in the collection for a long time but just haven't had a chance to shine. So we hope this exhibit gives them that chance and you enjoy getting to see them for the first time. The exhibit is organized loose groupings based on type of animals. So we have fish and other sea creatures. We have reptiles and amphibians, mammals and birds. And you'll see that as we go. Sometimes there's also groupings based on the type of environment these animals prefer. For the most part, this wall is freshwater fish. And then this is a saltwater fish, and then actually that reverses in the next bay. Freshwater on this side and saltwater on the other side. But they're all together, and we hope that makes some sense. Okay, let's begin this way, and we'll talk a little bit. Maybe I'll highlight this piece as well really quickly. This is a mackerel by Roland Johnson. There are 2 artists in this exhibit that are represented twice, otherwise every artwork is by a different artist. Johnson is one of the artists with 2. His other piece is the panfish watercolor in the middle there. He's a Swedish artist and avid fisherman. He often likes to make a nod to the environment that the animals he paints come from. And so you'll see in this painting he's included the coordinates, the geographical coordinates that he caught this fish at or observed this fish. So that's kind of a fun feature. I want to make sure I'm catching all the ones that are out for the first time. But this one, which has yet to be hung, will be its first time hanging. We had to frame this piece especially for this exhibit, and so that's always an easy way to tell that it hasn't been out. These 2 on the pedestal are the one on the right, the darker stone, is also its first time being exhibited. Both of these works are by Inuit artists, and if you visited our exhibit of Inuit art a couple years ago, Transformations, you may remember the little kayaker, but now we have a friend with him as well. So let's keep going. This painting by William Zimmerman is also being exhibited for the first time. So it's a tempera painting, which is a challenging media because it dries very quickly. And so it's hard to change your mind. With oil paint, you can go back and adjust. Tempera, you really can't. And so this is a medium that the artist worked particularly with. He was known for it. He illustrated a lot of bird catalogs. I think, not bird catalogs, what is that?
Guides.
Guides, thank you. And he always used this medium. We're glad to be featuring this work for the first time. We have 2 salmon in this show. One there, and this painting by Carl Rungus. We're going to put them together, but based on space constraints, we decided to split them up, and I think actually that works out really well because salmon can live in both salt and fresh water. And so it's kind of fun to be able to include them in both sections. So these are our saltwater salmon and our freshwater salmon. There are also 2 works out in Sullivan Hall on a large pedestal you'll see right before the entrance to this gallery. We got very excited about a lot of the works in the collection and wanted to include them in this show, and then realized that our space wouldn't quite allow as many works as we wanted. So we had to cut some at the last minute. But also we were able to include 2 of the works out in Sullivan Hall. So those are a part of the exhibit. And we are trying for the first time this summer to use these little mini titles around the museum. And so we have them for both exhibits, and I was just hanging them up. And so artworks that are out in the galleries that are related to this topic or mentioned in the labels. Some of the labels will say, there's another painting of this species out in a different gallery. Those will be marked by these tags, and so it can be a little scavenger hunt to find those pieces.
Candace, is one of those pieces that you just said out in Sullivan Hall, is it the glass
Yes,
piece that you're talking about?
the glass squid and the bronze beavers. Yeah. So we'll be glad to have those as part of this show as well. Great, we'll keep moving into our amphibians and reptiles.
And feel free to join us on this side of Kenneth as well so that you can get up close and see the object she's talking about.
I can tell you a little bit about the balance of artworks in this exhibit as well. Of the 42 pieces here, 19 are paintings That's about 45%. 17 are sculptures, which is 40%. And then we have 1 drawing and 5 prints. So trying to create a bit of a distribution of media as well as styles and species. We also have 4 women artists in the show and 5 indigenous artists. The two you'll have seen, the Inuit artists. There's another print by an Inuit artist there, and there's one around the corner, as well as the glass walrus behind Sage, which is by a Tlingit artist. So, we're glad to be able to bring out this Warhol print of a sea turtle here. He did his Endangered Species series in, 1983. And this was printed the following year. It's not officially part of the Endangered Species series, but it is an endangered species. And I was tickled to learn that he actually made this as a promotional image for a film. So it was a movie called The Turtle Diaries, and has Ben Kingsley in it, and it's about 2 people who steal the sea turtles from the London Zoo to set them free. So I don't know if anyone has seen the movie, please let me know. I'd be very interested to hear how it is. Or maybe we can arrange a screening.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, so.
And this was donated to y'all or just your own loan?
This is a museum purchase. If you see M in the number, that indicates it's a museum purchase. W's are gifts. This section begins our mammals, and they're sort of loosely arranged here from interior animals, the interior of the continent, to the dolphins that are deep sea animals, or at least fully aquatic. And when we conceived of this show, I was very sure I had to have at least one work of a beaver in the exhibit, because my favorite fun fact about beavers is that in the 17th century they were designated by the Catholic Church as fish, so that they could be eaten on feast days. And that was especially important in North America because they were so abundant and already being hunted for the fur trade, and so they were a good resource and an important food source for people who were living here at the time. So, this is a period piece from around the time closer to the time that declaration was made, and so I think it's just funny to think of beavers as fish. Great. Anything else that hasn't been displayed before? This frog with the katydid in its mouth was recently donated to the museum from the JKM collection. So it was a long-term loan for many years and has recently become a piece in the permanent collection. So we're very grateful for that as well. This painting begins our section on birds. And we have some beautiful pieces here, including this pairing here. So this is a piece that is being displayed for the first time, and we're very excited to have it out, of Arctic terns. And then it's paired with this sculpture by Fran Jenkins. And when the sculpture came to us, it was given the title Untitled Tern. But having spent a little bit of time looking at images of Arctic terns, I feel very confident that this is not a tern. Other species that have been proposed have been cormorants. The artist's daughter nods to the fact that she believes it's a loon. On the website that was her mother's website, and now she's also an artist, so she took over her mom's website. She says that the museum has 2 pieces by her mom. One is of a bear and one is of a loon. But again, I'm not feeling loon. So we're presenting this as a mystery that we hope that you may solve for us or with us over the course of this exhibit to get a better sense of what this bird might be.
If it's not a cormorant, what are some of the other options?
I don't claim to be an expert on birds by any means, but I will leave that to some of our more experienced birders. But so far what we've been proposed has been tern, loon, and cormorant. And again, we have a cormorant here. I think it's pretty different from that as well.
Yeah.
So,
I'll bring an ornithologist.
great, thank you. Please let us know.
Well, we have the birding thing, there's a birding festival that's coming,
Oh, great.
so maybe they'll have an opinion.
We'll invite them to weigh in. The other artist that's represented twice in this exhibit is Robert Bateman, who will be familiar to many of you who know our collection well. We have these Atlantic puffins, which are lovely. And then also this painting here at the end of the hallway is called Above the River. And this is a particularly important painting for Bateman because it was a pretty big turning point in his career. He had been painting as an abstract expressionist for a number of years at this point, and really because it was such a popular style at the time. And then he went to see an exhibit of the work of Andrew Wyeth, the American realist, and he was so struck by the works in this exhibit that basically he decided to go back to his roots and paint again in a more realistic style. And this painting was based on Hoffman Slough by Wyeth, which he said was the most striking piece in the exhibit. And he spent years looking for his own version of Hoffman Slough, a landscape that he could paint that would be to him what the slough was for Wyeth. And he ended up finding it years later in Yellowstone. So this is a landscape that's local to us. And he has a lovely video on YouTube that you can search up where he talks about this piece and the process of making it. And he said he really, more than any of his other paintings, wanted the viewer to feel like they could walk through this landscape. And every hill, every turn, they could imagine what it would feel like. The other thing he said was that he painted the landscape and then decided to add 2 swans in. And the reason he said was because a landscape is great, but a landscape with wildland in it is really great. And I think that's just the most perfect emblem for our museum that really encapsulates Bateman's work, his perspective, and also our goals here. So that's why this piece is at the end of the hallway. We hope it draws attention to it and it becomes a focal point. Even though it's not fish or anything that lives in the water, swans certainly do live on the water. And to have it be a local landscape that's so near to us is really special. This painting by Chris Bacon is new to us as well. It was given as a gift last year. And it's especially poignant now because Chris Bacon has recently passed away. He passed away earlier this year after a pretty severe illness. And so we're so glad to be able to feature his work and highlight this piece that's both new to us and exciting in that way, but also a piece that honors his legacy as a really fantastic and impactful wildlife painter. So the bird section is sort of generally grouped from coast inland. Definitely not perfect, but that was the organizing principle there. And as we come around the corner here to our last few pieces, this is another of the works that is being displayed for the first time, this Pavana Fatalassi. He was, yes, an Inuit sculptor from Cape Dorset, and This is very emblematic of his work as well. He often did these very thin sculptures with lots of very small little figures, often fish, and it sort of defies gravity in a lot of ways. It looks like it shouldn't quite hold up. Another interesting depiction of a loon, because when loons are underwater, they actually don't open their wings like this. They don't use their wings underwater to maneuver, they use their feet instead. And so they also don't really dive into the water from the air, they are on the surface and go under. So it seems to me that the artist maybe observed another type of bird diving into the water, and this pose of the wings kind of extended like that and applied it to this bird. The exhibit does kind of wind around to include this glass painting of a cutthroat trap by Alberto Rey. And we didn't have room for it with the other fish, but we hope it's a nice capstone to this show. And another sort of local, it's definitely a local species, and a river in Montana that the artist hunted and fished in. And so another capstone to this exhibit with a little bit of a local anchor. So if there are any questions, I'm happy to try answer them. Otherwise, I think we're doing okay for time, but thank you.
I would certainly encourage you to ask Kenneth questions, because in addition to her deep art historical knowledge and knowledge of these objects, she has proclaimed that she feels most at home by the water. So she's especially qualified to answer your questions.
Yeah.
What do you think of the puffins?
Puffins, they're wonderful.
I like that one.
Yeah.
Do you know where on the East Coast?
I don't know exactly where. If I had to guess, it would be Newfoundland, probably. I know Bateman has traveled in the east coast of Canada quite a bit, and I think that's where the largest populations of puffins are, in Atlantic Canada. Another thing to maybe mention is that we tried to keep this centered on North American species for this exhibit and to tie in with the 250th anniversary. So some of the works we cut at the very last minute, we had some, a heron, a drawing of some herons, but they were a European species. And so as much as we wanted to keep them in as beautiful as they are, we did decide to pull those, and I hope you'll be able to see them at on a different occasion. Any other questions?
Kenneth, I missed it, but did you show us the drawing? You said there was one drawing in this?
I don't know that I pointed that out. Let me remind myself here.
When you talked about beavers.
In Iceland.
She's headed north.
This ink drawing of the sea lion.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah. Well, I'll be happy to stick around and answer any questions, but if there's nothing else, thank you again for coming, and I really hope you enjoy this exhibit.